Mr. Speaker, what is even bizarre is the attempt to exonerate his aplanque, his running mate, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, from this economic mess. Mr. Speaker, in 2018, again during the State of the Nation address, the President said, and I quote, "I am glad to be able to report that the economic management team, under the stellar leadership of the strong, brilliant economist, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has risen to the challenge and the hard work is beginning to show positive results." Unquote. Mr. Speaker, this was the President's verdict on his running mate in 2018 as far as his contribution to the running of the economy was concerned. Mr. Speaker, it's therefore bizarre that today the President, interestingly, seemed to be taking responsibility for everything just in an attempt to shield Dr. Mahmoud of any blame for the mess, even though he told us that he was in charge in 2018. Mr. Speaker, however, he subtly jabbed him, his running mate, when he said, and I quote, "It would be unwise for any president that will pretend to have all the answers and refuse the advice of his officials," unquote. Mr. Speaker, this was a subtle response to Dr. Mahmoud's vision speech, where he suggested that his vision may appear contradictory of his boss, the President, because as EMT chair, he was proud of the advice that they gave, which he certainly suggested were ignored. The President, in this State of the Nation address, was telling us that it would be unwise for any president not to listen to the advice of his officials. Mr. Speaker, therefore, the flight from responsibility from the economy to digitalization will not wash. His Excellency the President told us in 2018 how brilliant he was and how he was leading the economic management team to transform our economy. And if today our economy is in a mess, and because of that, there is an attempt to fly him from the economy to digitalization, Mr. Speaker, if that is anything to go by, we must be guided by the mess in the economic sector, not to allow him anywhere near the future, which, yes, may have, the digitalization may have a lot to do with. Mr. Speaker, I am not surprised that in the about 2 hours presentation of His Excellency's State of the Nation address, he did not have the courage to use the word corruption. Not even once did the President mention the word corruption. Mr. Speaker, why? Because in his previous sonnets, that is State of the Nation addresses, he referred, for example, to Mr. Martin Amidu, who was appointed as special prosecutor, as a man of integrity, a man who he knew was going to help him fight corruption. Mr. Speaker, after a while, Mr. Martin Amidu spoke of the frustrations he faced in his attempt to fight corruption using the Special Prosecutor's Office, and ended up describing Mr. Akufo Addo, His Excellency the President, as a mother serpent of corruption. Mr. Speaker, I am therefore not surprised that with this experience, His Excellency was unable to make reference to corruption in the over 2 hours presentation. Mr. Speaker, in previous State of the Nation addresses also, the President spoke about the unacceptable affairs that were reported by the Auditor General report year in, year out, and made a commitment that he clearly did not mean to reverse the state of affairs. Mr. Speaker, that commitment only translated into the illegal removal of the Auditor General then, who was doing that fantastic work. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Yaodomulebo, Mr. Speaker, and I say illegally because it has actually been proven by a competent court of jurisdiction that his removal was an illegal removal. Mr. Speaker, with all of this, it is not surprising, therefore, that the president did not have the courage to talk about corruption. The Speaker, on the Transparency International data, his government so far is the worst in the history of the Fourth Republic in terms of the measurement of the perception of corruption in this country. His best performance, indeed, happens to be the worst performance of his predecessor. And so, therefore, again, I am not surprised that he did not have the courage to make reference to corruption.